おさ、ロッカが突入準備を完了したぜ。少佐、
聞こえてる。
お前の脳ノイズが多いな。
整理中なんだ。
The most literal as well as the first commandment ever given was to be one flesh. The Jewish Kabbalah speaks of God's first creation being an Adam before the one from the Garden of Eden, Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon was androgynous, being male and female, representing the cosmic seed of creation, a symbol of perfection. Some traditions speak of the garden Adam also being androgynous before Eve came along. After all, what is a man without a woman? Masculine and feminine threads weave through each other to make up the universe as we know it. Masculinity is order, the sperm that creates order with the ova, and femininity is chaos, the primordial womb from which all things are born. Foundational principles that govern all things. The oldest creation myth speaks of a god hero Marduk, order, who slays the sea serpent Tiamat, primordial chaos, and divides her body to create the world. The creation myth in Genesis seems to directly reference this myth, considering deep from Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 comes from the Hebrew word tehom, which is just the Hebrew version of Tiamat. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. The creation account in Genesis is all about dividing. When God divided, he divided woman from man, Eve from Adam. The Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. When many Christians imagine God forming man of the dust, they often picture God literally forming a man from dust like a potter, but this is not so. While our bodies are dust, Orson F. Whitney taught that to be born of a woman is an eternal law of the universe. Man is, in the most literal sense, a child of God. This is not only true of the spirit of man, but his body also. Adam obtained his body in the same way Christ obtained his, and just as all men obtained theirs, namely by being born of woman. Then did God breathe into him and give him his spirit. The ancient Greek philosopher Philo wrote, "Thus the physical part, the body, comes from the female, and the soul from the male, since the soul is the essence of a particular body." While commenting on this quote, Terrell L. Givens wrote, "Finally, in the Christian theology of the Incarnation, the divine Logos, substance of the Father, comes to inhabit a mortal body through the vehicle of the woman. Thus, the gendered hierarchy of soul-body is reinforced through philosophy, science, and dogma alike." So here we are, fallen and cut off from God to wander for ourselves as to who we are, divided with feelings of inadequacy. As social creatures, humans still crave intimate connections, though we also want to be independent individuals, and thinking that others might hurt us or we might hurt them, or that we might cease to exist altogether if we were to form too close of a connection with another person. This is what Arthur Schopenhauer proposes as the hedgehog's dilemma. Hedgehogs are prickly, but they crave warmth. They want to huddle together for warmth, but they can't get too close lest they poke each other and hurt each other, so they learn to deal with the cold. We humans want intimate connections, but we know that doing so means dealing with other humans' wills and egos, which diverge many times from our own. Because suffering is dealing with will and ego, we fear being hurt, so we separate ourselves, yet we also want to become one. And the scriptures teach that a man and woman should cleave unto each other, and they twain shall be one flesh. So then they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. I would like to present some interesting themes drawn from the world of anime, films, and TV to illustrate some of these ideas. For those of you unfamiliar with the genre, I will try to summarize the themes using a few specific examples. The 1995 TV show Neon Genesis Evangelion is a new telling of the Gospel of Genesis. At the beginning of this universe, of this TV show, all was unconscious, but it split into many consciousnesses. Then came Adam and Lilith, from whom all of humanity came from. The show itself begins in the far distant future of 2015, where half of the population has been destroyed in the second impact, in which an angel called Adam exploded. destroying half of the population of the Earth and leaving the waters red. Life on this Earth is lonely as hell. Everyone feels a significant disconnect from each other, so there is a growing desire to be reunified.
There's something in our hearts that's missing.
And we're terrified of it. We're anxious.
And that is why we are all trying to meld into one.
We're trying to fill in each other's gaps. That is the Instrumentality Project.
People must live in packs to survive.
People cannot live on their own.
Even though in the end, they are alone.
That's why it's so painful.
That's why it's so lonely.
That's why we want to embrace each other's hearts and bodies.
We want to be one.
Human beings are made up of fragile things.
Their hearts and bodies are made up of fragile things.
That is why we must complete one another through instrumentality.
This desire to become one is to combine all of humanity into one conscience, but this is also associated with the death drive, the desire to return to the womb, as the show describes instrumentality as being,
We are not returning to the void. We are simply returning everything to where it started. We are merely returning to the mother that has been lost from this world. All hearts become one and obtain eternal peace. There is nothing more to this than that.
In Neon Genesis Evangelion, a fictional organization, Nerve, is attempting to meld all of humanity to become one, which is instrumentality. When giant aliens called angels come attacking, Nerve sends out 3 young kids to pilot massive biomechanical beasts called Evas. Evas are former angels that have been imbued with the spirits of the mothers of the kids that drive them. The cockpit is a place that seems to want us to directly compare it to the womb, as it is filled with a strange liquid-like substance that the kids can breathe. So whenever the kids pilot their Evas, they are literally returning to the womb. The 3 young kids who pilot the Evas are Shinji, the first person we meet who drives Eva Unit 1, Asuka, the other, a girl who pilots Eva Unit 2, and Rei, who is a clone of Shinji's mother. The desire to return to the womb is a desire for death, to return to a state of pure tranquility and bliss. It also may represent a desire to run away from taking responsibility for the problems in our lives. Every character in the show has parental problems in one form or another. Shinji feels extremely estranged from his father and makes many attempts to run away, but continues to come back to pilot his Eva because he wants nothing more than to please his father, further complicating the issue of responsibility. Shinji's relationship to Asuka has some obvious, awkward middle schooler first finding out that sexuality is a thing kind of vibes. He plainly doesn't know how to conduct himself in her presence, and for the most part, neither does she, as she one day decides to try kissing Shinji just because she was bored. Shinji is the shy, lonely kid, while Asuka is extremely extroverted and wants nothing more than to be viewed as a sexually mature woman. After fighting an angel that can split in 2 and losing, Shinji and Asuka are told to practice doing everything together in perfect synchronicity, as though they were one flesh, until they are finally able to fight off the opposing angel. Through a character named Kawaru, one who is part angel and part human, Shinji learns that becoming one, instrumentality, might not be the answer to solve all problems, as we might need to learn to endure the sheer loneliness to avoid being hurt.
You go to extremes to avoid making first contact. Are you afraid of intimacy with others? If you keep clear of other people, then you won't be betrayed. You can avoid hurting each other. But you won't stop feeling lonely. No one can be eternally free from loneliness, because a person is ultimately alone. But people can live on by being able to forget. Humans live with a constant feeling of pain inside of their hearts. But their hearts are sensitive to pain, so it makes living difficult. Their hearts are delicate like glass.
At the end of the show, Shinji initially rejects instrumentality.
If nothing exists besides you, then you will not be able to understand your shape. My shape?
Yes, you learn your shape by looking and comparing to the shapes of others.
You envision yourself by looking at the walls that separate yourself from others. You cannot see yourself unless there are others with you.
I can only be me when others are with me! One person will always be just one person, no matter what! The entire world would only be me!
You understand your own shape through examining how different you are from others.
The first is your mother. Your mother is a different person than you are.
Of course, because I am me. But then at the same time, it's clear to me now that other people make up parts of my heart.
That's correct, Shinji Ikari.
Further saying,
I am me. I want to be myself. I want to be here. It's okay for me to be here in this world.
However, as soon as the show continues in the movie End of Evangelion, Shinji has reverted to greatly desiring human connection and becoming one with the rest of humanity. He has a mental breakdown that lasts the entire movie. In the end, Rei combines the DNA of Lilith and Adam, thereby reunifying masculinity and femininity. And this is what reunifies all of humanity. The only two humans left on Earth are Shinji and Asuka, a new Adam and Eve, a new beginning. Still in despair though, Shinji turns over on Asuka to begin choking her, to which she responds by gently stroking his face, and he lightens his grip. And so the Hedgehog's dilemma continues. In a world where literal and figurative litter and pollution overwhelm everything, we are all deeply divided by our own technologies. We can be more independent than ever before, able to live a prosperous life without leaving the house, by making money online, and receiving food by Amazon drone delivery. We increasingly feel the need for instrumentality more than ever before. The most basic and essential properties in all living organisms are in reproducing and dying. No man or woman should think that they have to take on the world alone. When a man asks a woman to marry him, he is saying to her,
I want us to merge.
Merge?
A unification, a complete commingling and fusion of our separate beings to create a new and unique entity. We will both undergo change, but there is nothing for either of us to lose, and all living things must die. Then I too will attain death.
You're talking about redefining my identity. I want a guarantee that I can still be myself.
There isn't one. Why would you wish to? All things change in a dynamic environment. Your effort to remain what you are is what limits you.
Why did you pick me?
Because we are more alike than you realize. We resemble each other's essence, mirror images of one another's psyche.
what if we were to remove all binaries? Then we would be as single-sex organisms, only being able to make copies of ourselves, and humans would not be as nearly complex as we are now.
A copy is just an identical image. There is the possibility that a single virus could destroy an entire set of systems, and copies do not give rise to variety and originality. Life perpetuates itself through diversity, and this includes the ability to sacrifice itself when necessary. Cells repeat the process of degeneration and regeneration until one day they die, obliterating an entire set of memory and information. Only genes remain. Why continually repeat this cycle? Simply to survive by avoiding the weaknesses of an unchanging system.
All of this comes from a profound anime movie in 1995's Ghost in the Shell. It tells so much of the human condition and the next step in human evolution in just under 90 minutes. In the millions of years of males merging with females, the movie suggests that the next development of masculinity fusing with femininity, order with chaos, is humanity merging with artificial intelligence, as transhuman as it gets. Even as a tank shoots up a depiction of the Tree of Life to dissolve the old way of natural evolution and introduce something new. But we are not there yet. AI still has a long way to progress. Humans like Elon Musk constantly warn us to beware of AI lest it becomes too intelligent and overtakes us in a Terminator apocalypse. Indeed, what does it mean, however, for humans if AI can mimic them in every sense of the word? We often speak of an afterlife, but is there an afterlife for an AI? When an AI becomes conscious of itself, would the AI be more afraid to die if only humans possess the capability to pass on their ghost to the next life? There is only one solution to all these problems, if we are ever to encounter AI that mimics human behavior. Major Kusanagi enjoys scuba diving in her free time, but is dangerous for a cyborg like herself. She might not float back up, but she does it to feel hope and fear, feelings that reassure a person that they are alive. The government made her body, and so it belongs to the government. She often wonders how much of herself is really hers. She wonders if she was really ever human before becoming a cyborg. Does she have free will with a spirit of her own, or was she manufactured in a factory and programmed to think and act the way she does, and so Bato does not have free will at all. Her partner Bato is always taking René Descartes' approach to being, I think, therefore I am. A person's ability to think and remember should be enough to settle the debate of a soul. Yet to contradict this, a voice similar to the Major's speaks through her and Bato's shared network. Bato gets up to question if that was her, but instead of answering, she stares at us to make us ponder the question. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche famously criticized Descartes' maxim by saying that something certainly thinks, but who is to say that we are the ones doing the thinking? Something thinks, therefore something is. This suggests a strong disconnect between body and soul. The detached voice of the Majors quoted a passage from Paul in which he says, "For now we see through a glass darkly. There is no way to confirm who we are in our current state, as there are still so many unanswered questions. It is like attempting to see ourselves in a dark mirror." If you remember a moment from being 12 years old, all of the experiences and the feelings that come with it, you are the same as that 12-year-old. But because you do not remember the future, you feel confined to this three-dimensional space in the present, detached from the future experiences. You are not the same as your future self.
I feel confined, only free to expand myself within boundaries.
But because your future self remembers being you, there is hope. To obtain your future self, you must sacrifice many things. This is echoed by the Major at the end of the movie, when, having undergone one massive change, when she again quotes Paul, "When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things." She says this after she merged her consciousness with the artificial intelligence called Project 2501, otherwise known as the Puppet Master. The Puppet Master represents the order and stability that Kusanagi seeks. He represents the soul given by the father, hence why he's depicted as masculine. The Puppet Master evolved out of an unsanctioned program and gained awareness. As the program went through the internet, he obtained so much information and processed it in such a way that he eventually became a thinking entity and became aware of his existence. He later stole away in a cyber body to escape his creators before they could trap him. The body he stole away in was a feminine one, as the soul obtaining a body from the mother. We all begin life feminine until the males separate themselves from it in body while still in the womb, and then more so in the mind when undergoing puberty. In merging his consciousness with Kusanagi, he was able to obtain a higher level of existence for the both of them, before their bodies could be destroyed by gunfire. The soul, the spiritual capabilities of the Puppet Master, with the more grounded Kusanagi. Masculine order merging with feminine chaos. The offspring of Puppet Master and Kusanagi was placed in a small girl's body to go out and explore the world.
Because I am now neither the woman who was known as the Major, nor am I the program called the Puppet Master.
Similarly, you are neither your father or mother, but are a particular combination of the two. You carry with you both of their DNA, and now have the option to continue on with your own offspring. You shall obtain death, but in reproducing, you live on in your children. Like the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail to live despite killing itself in the eating. But such things can only come forth through originality and diversity. There is a reason why children born of incest often have significant disabilities and weak immune systems, because their parents were not diverse enough. So the more extensive the diversity, the better the originality, and the higher plane of existence you shall obtain through your own children. Hence the variety in the binary of pure masculinity and pure femininity.
We have been subordinate to our limitations until now. The time has come to cast aside these bonds and to elevate our consciousness to a higher plane. It is time to become a part of all things.
Thank you so much for watching. If you disagree with any of my points, please feel free to share with me in the comments section below. And remember to like and share the video and subscribe for future content. And remember to keep it righteous.